In a twice monthly conversation about anything and everything ocean and conservation for ocean and conservation enthusiasts and activists of all ages. I'm Liz Taylor, ocean explorer, naturalist, and entrepreneur. And you?
I'm Sylvia Earle. I'm an oceanographer, explorer in residence at National Geographic, and founder of Mission Blue, and of course, an ocean elder.
Well, before we go any further, I'm going to share our screen.
Oh, right. Because we want to emphasize every time that the world
Is blue.
you betcha, there it is, Earthrise. Everything has changed since then, and it's still changing.
So let's dive in.
I'm ready. Splash. Here we go.
Here we go into this world of jellies. Look at these guys. So today we really want to dive in with a purpose and talk about some of the old connections that we want to try to re-strengthen and renew between art and science. For so many years, every single field expedition that went out, every science party that went out took along an artist, whether it was
They didn't have cameras.
no, they didn't, and so they really relied on things like the field notebook, artists that were doing paintings. Charles Darwin took an artist along on many of his expeditions. So did William Beebe. We've had this long history of things from watercolors to pen and ink images,
Lithographs,
of all kinds.
right.
When
Maps, all of it. I mean, we take so much for granted today. Photography has become second nature, but they're photographers and they're photographers. There are those who take pictures and there are those who make pictures. The artists have something special in their head that enables them to see what others do not.
Right,
And we have a very special guest today.
we do. We'll get to him in just a couple of moments, but in our last episode we talked about the humpback whales and other whales of all kinds. And with these animals, they're traveling thousands of miles, and how do you really tell them apart from one another and really connect the dots? And we do it with field notebooks and photos and so forth. But looking at these way that the artists are able to really connect the dots and connect, you really feel it in your heart and your soul, and you see an image like this, and it just really takes your breath away.
It's not just artistically pleasing, but the knowledge that can be gained. Not just look at how many of them there are, let's count them. And if you're just looking at it, it's really hard to get an estimate. But here you can actually sit down and start counting them, and you can see, even with this image, that they're not all alike. It's that capacity to really document the nature of nature, and to go back and see things that you don't see at first glance, but you do by looking at the images.
And these rays are just
Mobula rays, they have this way of hooping it up and getting together, and I think rays really like other rays.
they truly do. Um, Today we are going to be joined by a special guest.
He took this picture.
He did take this picture. Amos Nachoum, and I think he's going to turn on his camera and video for us. And here he is.
And I'm with you.
Oh, there's the
There
real
he
deal.
is. There he is, the big animal himself.
Yeah. Almost you come to specialize in the large animals of the sea and have really taken people along with you to see what you see by bringing back these extraordinary images.
And we've known Amos for a very long time. Here we have the two buddies and an astronaut.
Well,
The
he's a
two
buddy
dive
too.
well, but you're dive buddies, right?
Yeah. So is Buzz Aldrin.
So is Buzz, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a water guy as well as a sky guy, and almost you haven't changed much. You're still got that big animal look about you.
Well, thank you
And
very much. But just a moment, Sylvie and Liz and everybody else with us. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be in your company. and in the company of Mission Blue, to be able to talk today and how artists and scientists really work together. And this image before, it is 40 years old. People just need to remember that was November 1980 when I just started my diving in America. I invited Sylvie to come with me on a boat to the Red Sea. I looked up to her as a leading researcher and scientist. And from there, from her to see her on a boat for 10 days, picking up, she's a botanist actually. Really, Sylvie?
Seaweeds.
Seaweeds, right.
Seaweeds, and she will pick up seaweeds from the Red Sea. She take it to the boat and look at the microscope and the passion and the patience that it took with her to do it. That's how, in a way, I learned how to work with my camera. I could not look through the microscope. I'm wearing glasses, not like she's 80 some plus, and she's amazing. I already wear glasses, but with the camera, I was able to in a way to emulate the same pattern and the same commitment that Sylvie made to study the ocean condition, developing the HubSpot of the world, and developing the understanding of botanists of all the seaweeds and how they relate to the fish and fish to our present. And so thank you, Sylvie, for teaching me that 40 years ago.
And yeah, it's just amazing. And
Tell us about this photograph. I mean,
well, we had Amos on before, really, with this in our shark episode with this particular image of the big white shark with Amos. But Amos, how big was this shark really, and what did it take to get this picture?
This picture taken by a good friend of mine, one of the world's best, perhaps, base jumper, Jeb Collis. You see his name on the bottom left. And Jeb took this picture in Mexico, in Guadalupe, and we're diving out of the cage without bait, without chum, safely with a great white. And this shark was about 15 feet long, or 15 or 16 feet long. Let's keep it even 14, smaller rather than bigger.
but almost looks to me as though you're the bait.
Well, exactly. That was the key, what we try to demonstrate or to show, to illustrate, that when we don't use bait or chum, it is peaceful to be with a great white in the water.
Yeah, they're not agitated.
And they are not been aggravated. They have not been teased as they're teasing them with all the cages operation. And that's
right.
it. And that is what we need to bring it's difficult between science and art, and how to bring it to the people at home to see what it's like to do things the right way rather than in sensationalizing way, like diving in cages and this kind of misunderstanding about the behavior of the animal.
Look at this next photograph.
There, yeah, look at this guy, yeah. Now this is what you were photographing, right?
This is exactly what I was photographing, but again, like scientists use microscope and depend what size, or researcher to go up, look in the telescope up in the sky. I had to adjust my tools in the water to photograph this peaceful or smiling image of a great white to my camera. And rather than wide angle lens, I use a normal lens that see the same angle as our eyes, because 98% of the people in the world are visual, but 98% of them will not go to the water.
I mean, just from all my experience with animals and seeing them in all different areas, you can just see that this is a peaceful looking expression. You know, it's not aggressive. It's got a very content face.
And this is from a distance of only 3 feet away from a camera.
That's incredible. We've got this one too. This one is a little more active, right? But
this is part of the shark behavior to be able to ambush the seals in early hours of the morning and late hours of the afternoon, when the angle of the sun into the water is very limited. So the shark can see the seals on the surface, but the seals cannot see the shark underwater. Just like surfer or swimmer, they cannot see the shark early morning and late afternoon, but the shark can see them on the surface, and that's why we have most number of attack or accident between shark and
right,
surfer.
the fish bite accident, yes.
Yeah.
But this is where, again, having the photographer there to document this and to really understand the importance of light the way that photographers uniquely do can help
and
to.
and to be able to do what you do, almost, and that is basically to think like the shark and anticipate, really, and
Let me-
anticipate if you were the shark, what would you be doing? And then you're right there to take the image.
Thank you.
And this one,
This
How
one
big
with a
is this
sperm whale.
creature?
With a sperm whale. Again, it is the photographer or the person who joined the trip or the expedition to act responsibly and respect to the animal, not to be pushing against them, not to not to stop them in the way, but parallel to them, guide them, really be in line with the animal to be able to bring this beauty. And as the photographer along together with the sperm whale going their own happy way or merry way.
right?
It's showing respect for them
Yep.
and really treating them as you'd like to be treated yourself, putting yourself in their place.
And look at
Oh,
this guy.
that is ethereal.
That is perhaps one of my, for me, is the next generation of work to do in the wilderness as of we are hopefully out of the corona or out of the pandemic and focus the next year together with Mission Blue and Sylvie perhaps, mostly about the blue whale. And probably one of the interesting happened or to know that the blue whale, in my view, it is perhaps the modern dinosaur because the blue whale could not survive during the dinosaur period because it'd be eaten or been taken away very easily. But as soon as the dinosaur disappeared, the blue whale show up and is the largest, perhaps the largest animal ever live on the planet. And
And
and and feed only on plankton. Is totally harmless to human. We
Yeah,
are we are the enemy of the blue whale. And from 350,000 blue whale they used to be on the planet at the beginning of the previous centuries, today is all hardly 15 or 17,000 of them left.
it's incredible.
I think the good news is there are more of them today than there were 50 years ago
Exactly.
because
There
we
is
stopped killing them.
Right.
there is increasing number, although slow, and therefore I put the effort for next year, as I mentioned before with Mission Blue perhaps, to go to a 3 or 4 destination around the world to focus on be able to see the blue whale, but this time together with your effort, Sylvie, and the Mission Blues team, to have a protocol of work, and every person who joins us on the trip will have to fill up the information about the behavior, about what we see,
Right.
so we can bring back information to the researcher about being with the blue whale in the Costa Rica Dome, or to be with them in Sri Lanka, or to be with them in the Azores. Three of
Right.
the destinations we're planning to work on next year.
They are truly world citizens. They occupy the blue part, and everyone, just like you and like Liz, like myself, like everybody who's watching, everyone is an individual with a personality, with a face, with habits, and that's again where you come in to document not just blue whales, but that blue whale that lives there and travels to this other place, and you get to know them. That's the magic of what's about to happen. It's really exciting.
And Liz told us last time in a conversation we had on the phone something very interesting. Liz, could you repeat it again? What happened between the blue whale and the shipping lane, and why there are we need to watch the shipping lane and how they become as an accident with the blues.
Right. The blue whale, it's a curious thing. And, to your point about how they really couldn't have survived in the age of the dinosaurs, but one of their defense mechanisms, because they're big and they're blue, they're kind of camouflaged by just being still in the water. And one of the real problems we have is that when they're approached and kind of frightened or startled by the sound of a large ship throbbing past and making them very disoriented, is that they just freeze. They just freeze in the water, and it makes them a huge target, very vulnerable to being hit by ships. And of course, the ever going pushed for, economic efficiency to get the faster, quicker. It really doesn't work well with these whales. They need the space and the time to be able to go along their migration routes without having to worry about being run into by a giant cargo ship.
If we find out where the pathways are, and that's part of the research that's now going on, there are highways in the ocean that the whales, the sharks, and they follow the currents. And if we know where to anticipate them, we can certainly be on the lookout for them and guide ship traffic as best we can to be mindful.
Yeah, even just slowing down when we know and recognize the presence of where whales are, and as you say, being mindful of where the migration routes are, and really kind of looking out for these animals instead of just kind of considering them as being in our way.
Right.
We need to
respect them.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. The two reasons here, two issues, because we have the corona and the reduced number of shipping around the world, the less noise.
Right.
Next year could be, or the first time we can go back to the water more openly, more safely. There will be a bonanza year to see the wildlife, because most of those animals return back to their normal routing migration. So that's why we want to go to Costa Rica Dome, to the Azores, and to Sri Lanka. And again, hopefully with the help with Sylvie, and or research that we work together with Mission Blue to bring more information about the blues, what they do there, when they move, and what condition they needed. So to provide a researcher or scientist and then to government how to imply certain kind of condition that allow commerce and wildlife to live in peace.
Exactly.
Love it. Here's your favorite.
Yes.
How about what size was this calf compared to the mom whale?
The calf was only about 2 or 3 weeks old. This was the youngest calf I ever seen. I had a chance to see. This is in Tonga, almost 24 years ago, the first time. But rather than to catch it horizontally, that you not get, in my view, the feeling of how big the animal or the relationship between the mother and calf, the opportunity to catch it vertically was the one that really illustrates the humpback is about 45 feet long. The calf was only about 7 or less feet long. And you can see.
Yeah, that's the smallest calf I've ever seen.
It was
usually they're much. They grow pretty fast.
Yes, they do.
They can add like 50 kilos a day.
Yeah. And to your point about not being able to travel quite as much as we are used to with with Corona and so forth, but we're able to see animals that are living closer to shorelines and also to see some of these impacts that people are having on the animals.
This is such a sad image. Imagine having to drag a fishing net around with you when your means of transportation is moving your tail. Oh, and the sad thing is when you move, when the orca, shown here, moves its tail, that net must really create an irritation. I mean,
a drag. They put the orca down eventually.
Yeah, it'll eventually drown from this sort of.
And
so
that's
what happened. Were you able to get this net free?
Unfortunately, not, Sylvie. That was the sad moment for the rest of the week that we were there in Norway. We tried for about we have only 4 or 5 hours daylight time in Norway when it has happened. And for 3 hours, we chasing with the boat, diving, and we were not able to get to the orca to release the net from her. And eventually I took a camera just to illustrate it and to create the apathy, what animal really facing in light of tremendous amount of commercialism goes in the ocean, and what steps we need to take or we can take in order to avoid these kind of casualties.
Again, an image that tells a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's scientifically important. You can identify that whale.
That particular whale.
Right. But you're also showing how we're impacting the ocean.
It is.
It's very powerful.
It's that whole ability to really make the image, right? To not just document it, but to really make something that is
tells the story.
Tells the story and really touches us in the heart.
Right.
Just like this one.
Oh, this image, this whale made headlines. You want to tell that story, Amos?
It was a remarkable moment that we could not expect. It was a special we did for National Geographic, 1997, the Orca of Norway. And we saw this mother of the pod moving on the surface with something in her mouth, and we did not know. And in one of the moments that we jump into the water to photograph actually carouseling, how the orca feeding underwater, I saw something strange on the right-hand side of my face, and I turned around and I saw her coming with this cuff in her mouth, and I still was shooting with film on a Nikon RS, if anybody remember. and it was only 2 or 3 pictures I could take of the same moment. And by the time I came up to the surface, it was really revelation when I talked to the Anna Bister, the scientist or researcher that was with us. And of course, with Nick Kalianis, the filmmaker, that were with me in the water at the same moment, but he was focused on the carouseling while I was focusing on that moment. And she was carrying that calf. And it was a result of the amount of pollution in the water that the mother feed on from the herring, and the herring feed on the plankton, and plankton on the krills that are all full of the pollution that we put in the water. Eventually, what she provide the young one is not very good milk or very rich milk in nutrient. On the contrary, with poison. And the young one did not have the ability to keep up with the family. And as a young mother, she carried the young one, the dead one, for almost a week. It was amazing. We saw her 2 or 3 more times after that. Then we start following her, but only on the surface. We did not see her again in the water. And that was one of, in my career, I guess, is one of the, perhaps, one of the 3 most powering image that I have captured underwater, although it is sad, but is emotional, and the connection between the wildlife in the water that most people don't see to people at home, and hopefully they create compassion to the wilderness in the ocean. And that's what we try to do, what Sylvia tried to do, or Mission Blue, with a HubSpot. Compassion to the wilderness.
It really does tell that really important story. I feel that, no matter where we are, whether we're landlocked, whether we spend any time in the water at all, but what we do in our home environment can make an enormous difference for animals like this. As you're talking about the bioaccumulation of these toxins in the food chain, they come back to us. They can damage our health, and they clearly can damage the health and the ability of the whales to feed their young nutrition. That the same chemicals that can accumulate in our tissues accumulate in the tissues of the whale, so that when her fat reserves are drawn upon to create milk for the baby, as you say, they can be with deadly consequences for them.
There's documentation about dolphins in Florida. Randy Wells has studied the bottlenose dolphins there, and just the same story, that especially the mothers for the first time, their firstborn gets an enhanced toxic load. The firstborn usually don't survive. They have a tough time because they get the most of the toxins that have accumulated in the mother's system, and it goes and it's insidious. Mother's milk, you'd think, would be the most precious thing in the world, but it's poisoned by us, what we put into the ocean, what we put under our lawns,
especially
what we allow to flow into the sewers and out into the ocean. It accumulates, and it's in the food chain that winds up with this tragedy. So often, after eliminating that initial toxic load, the second or third born have a better chance of survival. But the firstborn is usually a loss. It's just
It's
tragic. But
heartbreaking.
unless people such as you, almost out there documenting it and providing the evidence, and Randy Wells and the other researchers, this combination of scientists and artists, photographers working together to really tell the story and share it with the world.
Yeah, it's that, we have the ability now, everybody's running around with even just cameras on their phones and this sort of thing, and we see this, there's almost this sort of glut of images that's out there. But I think one of the really important things that's happening with Mission Blue and this connectivity with not just with scientists but also with artists is that we're able to bring images, ideally from the hope spots, but to bring them in and start to catalog them through a platform like Esri,
our story maps.
the story maps, right? So we're able to take images
and share them.
Right, and even a older image, a historic image, a film image like this can be digitized and imported into that platform. And then you're able to go back and look at change over time and to gauge whether protection is doing a laudable job, or if we need to expand protection, or what do we need to do.
And you can follow individuals over time, like that picture of us almost in 1980.
Where are they now? Okay, so let's talk about this amazing image. So this is a leopard. So how big is a leopard seal, Amos?
The leopard was about 12 feet long.
12 feet. This is a 12-foot. I mean, look at the mouth and the isn't the penguin something like 4 feet tall?
No, the penguin maybe 2 feet to 3 feet at the most. Yeah.
Yeah.
The gentoo penguin. It was a very interesting situation, which one of them is, of course, we are in Antarctica. Very little research been made about the leopard seals because because it's cold, it's expensive, it's costly to get there, but also because they live there they are there only for very short time of the year. The main food, of course, it is plankton most of the year, but 30% of their diet is on the penguin. But all the process of feeding on a penguin, it is extraordinarily interesting. They will go on the ice, they go into a shallow lagoon, they put their head in the water, they wait only for the young penguin to go to the water, and the young penguin will go only during the low tide. And then the leopard seal will surprisingly catch one of them, and is on undulating movement, they move back into the deep water. And I had to go and swim parallel to this leopard seal and to see the old behavior, how he catch the penguin, let it go, and the penguin run back to shore, and the leopard seal run after it, catch it, and bring from all the penguin, you will find the one that he hold before, he go catch it and bring it back into the water.
Wow.
And eventually what it does first is drown it. First of all, he take his leg and drown it, and then let go, like here in the picture. This penguin, unfortunately, already been drowned, and then the leopard seals come in to take it, but it do not bite it like here in the picture. It's overly dramatic for whatever reason. Eventually, it catches it by the feet. The leopard seal catch the penguin by the feet with its canine teeth. It cut the skin in the leg, shake it violently in and out of the water. The skin peel off, and only then it can eat.
Wow. That's an incredible observation path.
So I have the old chain of picture, not with us today, but this is the work which I learned again from people like Sylvie, and like Dr. Eugenie Clark, her counterpart, and other researchers that I work with, and see how they work in research and building up the case, and how I can do something similar to that with the camera and the guests that coming along, to be able to see the behavior of the wilderness, not just take a picture and post it up on the internet.
So many really important scientific insights have come about because of photographers who have the patience to really observe and document provide the evidence. It's magic. It's more than magic. It's the reality of what the skill that it takes, the technical skill, but it's combined with that something that is rare, the to observe carefully and report and document honestly what you see. That's science, but it's also art.
And I think
they live together. Science and art live together, and that's what makes it more powerful.
it truly does. And I think that as we try to look at particularly some of the trips that you are organizing and where they overlap with the hope spots, to be able to work with the scientists, with the champions in those areas, to understand like what is missing from the story, or the natural history of an area. What are the blanks that we really need to work together to try to fill in? And whether it's documenting particular behavior, or particular migration times,
Getting to know individuals. Get the rogues gallery going.
Yeah, you're always on about the fish face, right? Collect all the fish faces,
Or
but
the penguin faces, or the leopard seal faces,
but
or the photographer faces.
but to Amos's point, if you can go to the field kind of armed with basically a little to-do list, and it's something that we can start right at home. I mean, even in this time of the pandemic, with people spending so much more time at home and having the time to go out and download iNaturalist on the phone, to take a hand lens or a magnifying glass with them, and really get to know their own backyards and their own neighborhoods in ways that maybe they haven't thought about before, that really
Observe carefully
and kind of
report
reconnect.
Honestly.
Yeah. And if there's capacity to reach out to a local, it could be anything from a high school AP biology teacher to a community college to a local university, and get to know some of the scientists there, the local biology teachers and things, and say, how can we help? How can we really become involved in understanding the biodiversity of our own backyards and our own neighborhoods, and trying to repair some of the damage that's been done over time.
Yep. The more of what you just mentioned, the more we educate or share with the kids to see that, and for them to appreciate the animal, not because of the old story about how dangerous they are, but on the contrary, honestly about the behavior, so they can take it and also look at home, either for the birds or either for the squirrel or either for the deers, and follow them, and be able then to relate this to day by day life, and enrich their presence, enrich kids about the uniqueness part of the planet or Earth that we are living on.
Right, that we're all Earthlings together.
This
is an incredible image. It just speaks to all these things we've been talking about.
Well, almost as if it's affectionate.
Not really.
It is a lot of affection goes on, yeah, but
it's affection for that little one in the background.
we brought this image. I had a particular reason to bring it in, because as we're talking about the animals and condition, but also about the effect of the global warming about the planet, and for Sylvie to impact from her point of view, and from this particular point of view, where the polar bear, one of perhaps the apex predator on the planet, they need to feed, and especially on the ringed seals, which are rich in blubber, and to feed the young one. But the ringed seal live in the ice, and they make holes in the ice to survive. But as the ice recedes, there is less hole in the ice and the less food for the polar bear to feed on. And that the destruction of the ice, the food that creating under the ice, because of the sun and the combination of sunlight, and then also the ringed seal affected, and eventually the polar bear is the first one indication, is the canary perhaps to tell us the danger that, or the difficulty that we are facing in this receding of the ice and the global warming. And but that is the moment of how they need to feed, and there's no food anymore. What we do next? Where the polar bear going to feed on?
And it's shocking to me that there's actually still such a large hunt of polar bears going on, even at this time when they're so stressed.
Every polar bear counts.
Right, and that there's still some places in the world that are actively promoting the the hunting of these bears, and not with a camera,
I know.
which is just horrific.
Something really wrong.
Yeah, and
to want to kill one of these animals, unless it's self-defense. But clearly, if they're well fed, we're not on the menu.
yeah, but
How close were you to take this photograph?
We were quite far away, but at least 50 to 100 feet away with long lenses. If you mention the hunter, I dare anybody with a gun to come only with a camera and to do only the same thing, or put the camera on top of the gun and no bullets in the gun and shoot it.
yeah,
Will be a different world we're living in.
right, and much more respectful, a much greater challenge, as you just point out, that to capture these animals on film than to just kill them once with a gun.
That's ridiculous.
Is much better return of any polar bear alive, bring much more income to the local people, the Inuit in particular, either in Canada or Russia, or for the people who live in Norway, for tourism, for education, or for empowerment of people to come to see, living out from home, from New York, Louisiana, Dallas, and travel all the way around to Norway or to Canada, and to be for 1 or 2 weeks and to be able to see Mother Nature differently than what you see at home. Besides going to Starbucks or going to the movie theater, go out and take a trip to those places and challenge your physical being, emotional, and come back with reward like that.
To kill one is relatively easy, but just try to make one from scratch. We don't
Not
know
going to
how.
happen. But they really are, as you say, the canary in the coal mine when it comes to climate, and
A big furry canary.
big furry canary.
We have a film.
Yeah, we do.
Ah.
So we're gonna show the trailer from your film, The Picture of His Life, and
Thank you.
yeah, and it's after we show the trailer, then we're going to go to some questions and
But
answers.
you want to describe the
But yeah,
film a
before
little
I
bit?
start it, do you want to say anything about it before I run this?
There is a team of 2 young Israelis, excellent directors and producer, Danny Menkin and Jonathan Nir. Jonathan Nir was a student of mine, and together with Adam Ravech, which is probably one of the top, if not the top filmmaker on the Arctic and Antarctica. Also was a person I helped his earlier career. And all together, all 3 of us, or 4 of them, Danny, Yoni, and Adam, we went together 5 years ago in August to photograph one of my dream vision, to be with a polar bear in the water. I had an experience 15 years earlier when I tried to do it by myself, and the polar bear was running after me to about 70, 75 feet. It was one of the most scary moments of my career or my life, despite my military activity and other things that I've done, as Sylvie know, and being rascal. But you never take no for an answer. My attitude, on the contrary, you find a way to do it and to do it better. And it was an extraordinary team of Adam, Yoni, and the Inuit family of Joe Kalujak and his family that put all the knowledge together and all our experience. We went for 7 days and spent in the high Arctic. And eventually, Yanni and Donnie made a movie about my career with the epic moment of being with the polar bear. Let's see what
Now,
happens.
I urge the viewers to check out this film in its entirety. We're just going to look at a little 2-minute clip.
And then
Still, it's take your breath away.
And,
oh no. Okay,
Just hit it twice.
thank you.
Amos, to me, is one of the best ambassadors of the ocean. It takes huge amount of risks to bring those images which nobody else has ever been able to capture.
He comes back with images that no one can get. He is probably the best underwater still photographer in the world.
His story was always shrouded in mystery.
He doesn't have a normal life. He doesn't have children. He's married to the ocean.
He has this passion. He wants to be in the water, close to polar, swim with the biggest predator on Earth.
If the wind is too turbulent, we're not going to go there.
There's so many factors that can work against you.
All right, guys, we're taking off.
Amos and his team have only 5 days to find a polar bear and take the picture.
It's the one animal where humans are part of their food chain. People get eaten by polar bears.
He needs that adrenaline rush. He needs to be at the edge. And if he doesn't do it in one way, you do it in another way. And maybe his military background has part to do with it.
What happened to Amos in the army is a mystery to me. He didn't come home, really.
I can see blue sky compared to seeing flames.
I wonder if there is some kind of unfinished business with the polar bear.
Believing in yourself and go all the way for it, no matter what obstacle. And this is all the power of vision.
Amos wants to prove that those large animals aren't our enemies, and that we can live with them in harmony.
No.
If anybody want to see the movie, you can rent it. And the way to get there, it is picture of his life, one word.com/big animals. And then you'll be able to get to the page where you'll be able to rent to see the whole movie. And the purpose, in my view, was to show, if eventually you see the movie, to show that when with passion and patience and respect to the animal, we can be with all animal at peace, but we have to assume full responsibility for our action and follow with people which have experienced the leadership. In this case, again, my gratitude to Sylvie, what she imposed on me about 40 years ago when I just started being in the business of diving and taking pictures underwater, but with a purpose, with a goal. And I want to be able, the next part, as we go out of the Corona, together with Mission Blue and with Sylvie, creating new kind of expedition that involve research and contribution, not just taking picture and coming home, but during the trips or the expedition to bring information for science, protocol that we'll be able to get from researcher, what they need and what we can bring them back, or the people that join me or join us on a future trip.
Awesome.
Yeah, love it.
So we're going to take a few questions now. And one of the questions that's come in is people want to know, what kind of camera do you use?
Must be a very good camera.
Yeah.
Well, luckily enough, for all the people listening today, the beauty is that you can use even the iPhone in the water. So there is no limits. It's not about the camera, it's about the dedication, the perception, what message you want to bring back. And as one Chinese man said, mission without a vision is a daydream. And vision without a mission is a nightmare.
True enough.
So we need to have mission and vision, and then you bring a story. And it is not about the camera. You can do it with any camera you want. The question is what you're going to do with the images. What purpose? If you want to make it a very big print, then you use perhaps a Canon or a Nikon, the Nikon 850 and the Canon 1D Mark 7 or Mark 5. That's not the issue. If you don't have the budget, of course, Sony is excellent camera. And then of course, any of the smaller camera will do a very good job. Today, most of them, other video or still doing very good job to capture the moment. the question what you want to do with the images after.
And that's one of the great things I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, in the work with Mission Blue and with Esri is to try to see how people can contribute their images to the story maps, or to really any other kind of a platform where helping to document biodiversity is going to be increasingly important as we lose more and more of it.
And today more and more people can take picture because there are many more tools to take picture with.
Exactly. So Stephanie is asking us, what is your thought on showing the beauty of art photography versus showing doom and gloom art photography on such things as social media? I found that people respond better showing beauty shots, and I want to take care of the ocean and marine life when it's not so doom and gloom.
For Sylvie or for me?
No,
both
for
of
you.
Both of you.
I think
Let's hear from Sylvie.
Okay, you go first.
I think it's important to show the problems, but like the image that you have of the orca entangled with a net, it's a beautiful image in a way, but it's a really sad image. It breaks your heart, especially when you know it's so unnecessary.
Right.
So I think it's finding the right balance.
Right.
That image that you have of the rays, the mobula rays, is aesthetically just exhilarating. And people need to know that these things exist. You can't care if you don't know. But you also need to know that we've got problems. So some balance is probably healthy.
She put it in perfect word. I almost have nothing to add into it, just to say thank you.
Okay.
It is indeed, my direction was as a photographer to create emotional connection between the images and the people at home. And like we said earlier, 98% of the people of the world, the 7 billion people on the planet, unfortunately will not go to the ocean. So how do we create protection of the ocean? Because we are the one, the 98% create most of the sewage, if you want to call it, we throw our plastic, we throw our everything else into the water because nobody's seen it. Yes, the whales see it, the mobula ray see it, the polar bear see it, all those, and the blue whale see it, all of them, the other life on the planet that see what we do. Right. We need your cooperation. We need your support or to understand what the ramification of everything we do on the planet on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's true. Everyone has a part to play.
They really do.
The images want to create is emotion, connection with those animals. So you keep them in your mind next time when the plastic goes, or you see the flying away from the car that drives before you, to be able to pick it up and take it away.
So we've got about 15 minutes left for questions and answers, and I'm going to get to a few of them here. But if anyone wants to ask a live question, you can use the raise your hand feature. And Arnold, our co-producer, will call on you. He'll interject here and call on anybody with a raised hand, and we'll do it that way. Stop that, Amos. No,
actually, we have Ray, who just jumped in before you even finished your sentence. So, Ray, if you're there, I've unmuted you. You can ask your questions directly to the panel.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amos. What a fantastic gift. And good to see you, Sylvia and Liz.
Hey.
Sylvia has been kind enough to lend us her film Mission Blue, or the great films that she's worked with, and she's from Dunedin. We have a film festival here. Could you possibly give us the opportunity to screen your film? This is such a tremendous gift. All the work you've done, I want to cry. I'm so overwhelmed with the emotion and the power that you bring to this, and how much you share with the world to teach us to live in harmony, just as Sylvia and Liz are so dedicated to this work. I'm so moved by this meeting. Any chance that we could get permission to screen your film here and hopefully possibly host you here?
Okay, Ray, very simple. Please write to me directly in the email to amos@biganimals.com.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about how you can see the movie or how you can share the movie with your audience. Yes, it is possible. Just write to me directly.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you too.
Thank you so much. And I think we're going to go to Otis and then Mia. So Otis, you are open to ask your question.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for sharing this. I really appreciate everything that you do, all of you. And I had a question. I already wrote it actually in the chat, but I thought I'd ask this way.
Awesome.
What I'm always wondering is in situations like this, where you have, for instance, a webinar, and Amos, I'm a member of New York Sea Gypsies, so I've met you through that, and I've seen your photos in New York when you presented, for instance, your photos at New York Underwater Photography Society. But the people who go there, or people who are in this webinar, are all kind of self-chosen people who already sort of feel this and understand this. And I'm curious how you go about making sure that your messages are heard outside of this, I guess, relatively small circles of people who get it, right? Because if the other people who don't get it, whose help is needed, they need to be sort of converted so they become supporters.
Oh, I feel your pain. And I think it gives purpose to exactly what we've been talking about here, the opportunity to share with a much wider audience than those of us who are lucky enough to actually get out there and get underwater and have these remarkable encounters. That image of Earth from space, imagine if the astronauts went up there, took the pictures and kept them to themselves. The real beauty is sharing the view. And the film that describes Amos's journey is reaching a wider audience. And I hope that the audience for this kind of discussion will also grow. We especially want to get the kids involved because, this is their time. They're launching into a changed world, but it's a world where there are opportunities that could not exist, did not exist when I was a child, to make a difference in a way that, as never before, we really do need to engage the talents of everyone, everywhere, and inspire them to do what they can.
Yeah, one of the things that I've talked with Amos and others about is that as we put these expeditions together, perhaps there should be or could be more ways that we could kind of help to sponsor some of the local youth in these communities where
get the kids
where the travel's happening, and even in again just collaborating with local high school and community college and university teachers, and working directly to just try to strengthen these connections between art and science, because we see it wants to be there, and that's how we broaden that audience.
And it is frustrating. Almost, I'm sure you've encountered this, going to places where you come prepared to go explore the ocean, and their kids, even they live by the ocean, don't know what it's like underwater. One of our expeditions with Mission Blue, we went to Cabo Pomo, and we were able to get from Scuba Pro a whole box full of masks and fins and snorkels that we gave to the local community so the kids could go out and see for themselves what we came to see. And I had a chance to go diving with some of them. They were just, it's like opening the lid on this treasure chest.
Right?
They open the lid on the ocean. It's amazing that people who live by the sea just look at the top. At least historically, that was necessary. But today, a mask, fins, even the mask is the most important thing, so you can see underwater.
And snorkel. Let's not forget the snorkel.
The snorkel's pretty important.
Yeah, snorkel.
It's like you're in a little blowhole,
Yeah, the dolphins have it built in.
Right, they have to have some help.
Otis, I'd like just to mention here and the opportunity that what is fascinating, I did not know that, only my assistant or my co-producer, Chris Olson in New York, just about 3 weeks ago, find out we have 33 million people following my YouTube channel.
Oh, wow.
33 million. And Otis, it is unheard before the internet. And most of the people not from America, from everywhere else in the world. That's the
Great.
beauty. And most of the picture is only animal behavior. That's what I asked you, Liz, if you remember, if we can work together, or we're working together, but get some of the footage you have of animal, people with animal or just animal.
Right.
Well, around the world, they love to see that. It is
Right.
breaking news. Nobody wants to hear anymore about all the political problem of the world.
No.
They want something else.
Yes.
33
Something
million
wonderful.
people watching Anaconda, watching the blue whale in Timor-Leste, or the mobile array from Mexico.
Yeah.
That's what they're following. 33 million. And we discovered that only 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
That is so exciting. That's
so the power
encouraging.
of internet and how we put it all together. So again, I am only a photographer or explorer. Sylvie, it is the world leading conservation and fighting for the environment. We need people like you, Otis, and other that you know that we can bring in and help us take our message and spread it even farther to other elements of life, not just the diver or the photographer of the world.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great, Otis. I think, April has had her hand up for the longest time, so I think we have to call on her. So April,
Okay.
I've unmuted you if you want to talk to the panel.
Is she there?
April, you can speak if you'd like to, if you're still around. I guess not. So we'll leave it at that then. That's
All right.
fine.
So I'll go back to some of the other questions, and then if
Are there any other hands raised?
are there any other hands raised right now, Arnold, or we can?
Yes, I have my hand raised.
Yes.
Okay, almost. I see that big hand. How big is that hand?
I like Sylvie to tell us or to share with us what is your next project. What do you see for the next 1 year or 10 years from now, from your point of view of the research or the environment that you're so concerned about?
Well, my heart of hearts, I just love exploring selfishly to see what's going on, to get to know plants, animals, life in the sea. But I see, as you have, as Liz has seen, the degradation of land and sea, of the natural world, air, all the diversity of life. So for me, inspiring people to take care of the best places we can on the land and the sea. National parks, great idea. Protected areas in the sea, places that we're finding that we call hope spots that people are nominating around the world. Special places with magnified significance, places that people will commit to doing what it takes to protect what remains of the natural world that's in good condition, and to restore what we can, and to do it knowing that our lives depend on it. Really, this is the only speck in the universe, tiny little blue planet, that is a place that we can have as our home, and it's in trouble. It would be terrible if we did not know how much trouble we're in. That would be a real problem. But the exciting thing, I tell kids, you're the luckiest ones ever to come along, because we can see what nobody could see, even when I was a child. We have evidence, and we have the documentation, we have the perspective, we have that view of Earth from space. We have the views of the sort that you're bringing to the world, Amos, that here's what this planet is like, and here's how humans are changing it. We can be sad for the polar bears, and we should be, and for the orcas, and for all the other creatures who are in trouble. But if they're in trouble, we're in trouble. So it's healing the planet, healing the harm. And that's what I'm embarked on. It's a lifetime mission. I think it started when I was a kid, when I began seeing things that people were doing that were hurting the natural world, cutting the trees, seeing the birds die because of the poisons that we were applying to our lawns. And, I grew up as a child, of course, inspired by Jacques Cousteau, by William Beebe, but also by Rachel Carson and by others who were witnesses. And they could see what was happening, and they also knew why it mattered. And so our job, I think, now is to say we are here at the sweet spot in time. As never before could we know what we know, and never again will there be a better chance to do everything in our individual power, but together with your network, Amos. 33 million people, that's a good start. the three people that right here, right now, and all
people,
those
yes.
of you listening,
Mhm.
you can be a magnifier. You can do what you can do, but you can also inspire others to say, look, our highest priority has to be, I heard President Obama say, our highest priority must be to keep the world safe for our children. Well, he was thinking guns and things. And of course, that's a problem. But the biggest problem is keeping the world safe for our children. The climate, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the fabric of life that keeps us alive. I mean, what's more exciting than that? So that's what I'm doing every day.
And how many hope spots are there now? 130?
130 and counting.
130 and counting. And, those are all great spots where people can...
I'm really looking forward to going to Sri Lanka and maybe, finding a new champion.
But finding those collaborations between, and the hope spots are a great place to start. With 130 of them, you can...
communities
can kind of develop this sort of groundswell around them, and then grow it out kind of backyard by backyard,
a network of hope.
And it just expands out into this network of hope. Exactly. So, well, we are
I'm so glad to meet you 40 years ago. You gave me so much meaning and so much inspiration that people need to know, and the opportunity today to share it with both of you, with Liz and you, and continue that's what we started so long ago, and to see that we are, each one of us from our different point of view, making effort almost in the same direction, inspiring the world to be more in love with what we have and what we cherish, what we inherited from our previous generation.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. Amos, we're at the top of the hour, so we've kind of run out of time today, but a recording of the webinar is going to be available on the Ocean Elders YouTube channel. And of course, you can visit missionblue.org to learn more about the Hope Spots.
And the questions, we didn't get to answer all of them. There are a whole line of them here. We'll see what we can do to respond.
Yeah, we'll see if we can. Thank everyone for the questions and for raising your hands and just for joining in. And we have this conversation with the ocean community about every 2 weeks. But next week, we're going to be having a special episode on September 17 to talk about the situation that's going on in Galapagos.
Yeah.
And then again, join us at our regular schedule on September 24 when we'll be chatting with Wyland. Yeah. So thank you again, everyone. And thank you especially to our producers, Medley Media and the Ocean Elders. And we will see you next time.
One thing to remember.
We must
take care of the ocean
as if our lives depend on it. Because why?
They do.
They do. Thank you, Amos. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, everybody, indeed.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Peace on all of us.